All right, everybody, it's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, or workshop to order. Before we get started, I've got two additional things requests to add, and then we'll go ahead and just approve the agenda. I've got item number 13. It's going to be speed discussion request for speed bumps. Item 14, Bob and Sugarts wanted to add discussion of city manager contract. Anybody else have anything that we need to add to the agenda?
Where are you gonna put them at?
13,
At the end.
13 and 14.
At the end
of the agenda. So be 13 and 14. So for the consent agenda, motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll get started then with item number 1, rules of order, future proceedings.
All right, so as you all are aware, at our April meeting, there was some confusion and misunderstanding and deviance away from the rules of order when we handled a motion that was not part of the regular proceeding. We should have been more up to date on our parliamentarian procedures to not have allowed that. But since that motion was made and it was not corrected, it became valid after the meeting. So that was to move the meeting to May 21st. That issue is settled. The meeting's May 21st. We did not have a special called meeting. We detailed those things via email to try to explain the process of what happened. Not going to really go back into the weeds because we've rehashed it a bunch, but my recommendation and suggestion going forward would be that we adopt the agenda at the beginning of the meeting like we just did tonight. That gives a chance for anybody who has anything that they want to add, they can bring an item at that point and it will be properly approved or disapproved, and we'll go from there. As far as meeting scheduling, I can't tell you what to do, but my advice would be that we keep our meeting dates that we establish at the end of the year, and if you're unable to attend, to use the virtual attendance policy that you have adopted. Ultimately, if you can't make it that way, we will miss your presence here. But as long as we have a quorum, we can still proceed with business. Family things happen, life happens, you may not be able to be here. Just try to schedule your plans accordingly around our schedule that we'll develop at the end of the year, and we'll try to move forward without any more clunky issues, because it was, we spent a lot of time going round and round about something that could have been handled in just a few minutes. So just wanted to get that out of the way first, and just encourage you to follow those rules in the future, and let's stick a little more closely to the guidelines that we've adopted, and I will help do that, and council will help do that as well to make sure that we stay within the lanes of where we need to be.
With that being said, can you resend back out those rules of order that we passed?
Yes,
just
I
email
will.
it back out to the board, just so everybody's got a copy of that. Any other discussion on that?
I would say one thing is that, remember, we've adopted the Robert's Rules of Order, but they don't take precedence over statute,
Right.
and that's the case, which may be an issue with consent agendas being changed. We're required to have an agenda out to the public 48 hours prior to our meeting. If you're gonna allow somebody to come in and change it at the last minute, I'm not sure that it creates an issue or not. I've not done the research, but I know that it can be an issue.
This would just be for the workshop that would be a consent.
Oh, I'm not talking about the workshop. You're talking about doing a agenda approval at the actual BMA meeting?
No,
Oh, okay.
just the workshop. That'd be my
That's what you-
understanding, because
No,
we
it's not.
wouldn't be adding on to, because if you reference back to the rules of order, it says anything has to be added to the agenda by a certain date.
Right.
So that would still be precedent. It's just the consent agenda would be the workshop.
If I wasn't clear about that, this would just be
Okay, yeah, put it on here, that's no problem, but you just can't.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're saying that this only applies to the workshops?
Correct. The consent agenda, yes. You understand what we're saying with the consent agenda?
No,
Okay, that means if you want to add something to the agenda for the
okay.
workshop.
that's fine.
We're
But I mean,
adding that
in
in.
terms of changing dates,
No, that's separate from what we're talking about from the consent agenda and rules of order. The changing the dates, we're saying would be precedent of going forward, the dates that we adopted in December. This is just an operational meeting flow operation.
but then I'd like to add a 15th item, and that is changing the dates of the meetings.
What action, okay.
Well, we changed the meetings, even though everybody knew Because I said.
That's settled business. That's what he was saying. That's been settled. We're having,
So does this then also pertain to the scheduling of the meetings?
The scheduling of the meetings will take place in December, likely, for the next year.
I understand that. And these meetings were also scheduled.
Right.
For the 28th.
Right.
And then through whatever machinations, we bumped it back to the 21st.
Right. And
So
then-
that's gone.
And
So we're not gonna change any more dates?
I can't say that I can't say that, but that's, ultimately your all's decision, but I would highly recommend that you not change any other dates once you have published them at the beginning of the year. There are times where you may need to make an exception,
Right.
but I would encourage you to stick strongly to that schedule because it's transparency for the public. They know when to expect meetings, they know when they're gonna happen. That keeps us looking from like we're trying to move things around or do things underhanded. So I would encourage you all to stick to the schedule. We can't go back and fix what's happened, unfortunately. I know that people are upset about it. We're trying to move forward in the right way and ensure that it doesn't happen again. So that would be my recommendation to you. When the time comes for you to set the meeting dates for next year, for 2027, have a thoughtful discussion about when those are going to be. Look at your calendars, think about it, and also consider redoing your rules of order if you want to make them more strict or more lenient. Look at those things, but right now I don't think that would serve our purposes at this point in the year. It would be an end of year discussion to take that on.
any further discussion on that item? That'll move us on then to item number 2, town attorney future actions.
Okay, so we went out for RFP for town attorney. In the process, our current town attorney, Mr. Kaup, submitted a notice of withdrawal of representation dated 30 days out from the date, which was May 4th, which leaves us with a June 4th date. They have agreed to stay on if we do not find representation. So during that process, I began working with the committee that we had established to review the proposals to look at options for how we were going to move forward. We entertained three different options that I would like to present to you, and we can go from there. So the first option, there is a law firm out of Johnson City called the Spurrell Law Group. They have 2 attorneys here tonight that are going to introduce themselves. They submitted a letter of interest, interested in the town attorney position. One of them would be serving primarily as the town attorney, with the other one as backup as needed. The second option, we talked to the city of Bristol about potentially entering in an interlocal agreement with them to share attorneys. They are not in a place where they can do that, but we did have that discussion and tried to explore that option. The third option would be to continue on a month-to-month basis with our current town attorney until we can find a suitable solution, or we're open to other options if you have them or suggestions, but staff's recommendation is to go with one of those options, and clearly one of the options is not working, so you really have 2 options: entertain the new law firm or continue on a month-to-month basis with our current attorney. And I can answer any questions that you have, and I'm going to let Ms. Studer and Mr. Matney speak if they would like to introduce themselves and explain their interest, and if Mr. Kaup would like to say anything, he's welcome to as well. As you all, we can't make a decision tonight, but this is the time to ask questions and formulate your concerns or other issues that you may have. So you go ahead and have the floor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Studer, and this is my law partner, Matt Matney. My father and I started the firm, so it's Spurrell, Studer, and Matney now. He's been practicing for a lot longer, about how long I've been alive. So over 40 years, and Matt's been practicing, about 10, I think?
11 this year.
11, and this is about my 7th year of practice. So we handle a wide range of matters. I was very transparent, though this would be a new section for us. However, that's why we offered a reduced rate from what we normally would charge a client. But again, we handle everything in civil litigation. We handle a lot of criminal law, and we handle a lot of family law as well. So Matt is primarily our civil attorney, and so that's why we've offered that he would be the primary attorney and I would be the fallback if we needed that. Happy to answer any questions.
Just to add to that, my name's Matt Matney. I actually live closer than what I thought. I'm in Colonial Heights. Shouldn't take too long to get down here, so I'm actually in this area kind of a lot and more familiar than what I realized. Been at this 11 years. Was a prosecutor for a long time in my career. Do a lot of civil work. Do a little bit of everything. So if you guys have any questions, anything for us, we're always open, happy to answer anything or help with anything that we can.
Well, thank you for your work as a prosecutor.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for your work as a prosecutor.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
What were the fees that you guys were going to?
So we offered 175. That's comparable to the federal appointed rate that we take in full transparency. So that's why
Does your travel time here include that?
we would have to include that. I think Matt would be open to using his home address instead of our office. We'll try to give discounts where we can, but
Thanks.
yeah.
Anybody else?
You
So-
mentioned several areas of law. You didn't mention corporate law. Are you involved in corporate law also?
Being in this area, we've all handled a lot of different things. We've done corporate law, transactional work. It's not, of course, our bread and butter, but I think we both pride ourselves on research, and we're both litigation attorneys, so we're used to new questions and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
No
you.
stranger to a challenge.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
further discussion on that?
Would you like to speak to any?
We didn't respond to the request for proposals. We did put a notice in the withdrawal. We also put in there that we would not let Mount Carmel be without representation, as Tyler mentioned. We've been off and on representatives for the town for 30 years back and forth. We're more than happy to help. We're residents of the town. So we will be glad to help any way we can, but we just didn't feel it was appropriate to respond to the request for proposals.
Thank you. All right, so we'll look for something coming on the agenda to action that in one way or the other. Moving then to item number 3, building inspection, code enforcement, future actions.
Yes, so at our last meeting, you all voted to terminate the agreement with Safe Built. The next day, I sent them a letter stating that, and they tried to get our business back, and we informed them it was a board decision. We were not going to entertain that due to the many frustrations that we'd have with the process. So we agreed on a 90-day termination timeline in accordance with the contract, which would have put us in July. And we have tried to work through getting cases handled that they currently had open. They called me last week and they said, this is becoming a nightmare for us, we want out now. So we said, well, we'll be glad to make that happen as soon as we can line something up to make it happen, because we're very displeased with the level of service. So we began discussing a while back, before we even started putting all these pieces into play, to have a backup plan, because you don't take an action like this unless you have a backup plan. And we worked with a partnering municipality, Sir Gwinsville. They made a recommendation to us of a gentleman who completes building inspections, code enforcement. His company is called Integrity Inspections. His name is Bill Rupert. We've had several discussions with him, very productive. He has actually stepped up and helped us on a case-by-case basis to get us through this safe built issue until we get a permanent inspector in place. So he's currently handling things for us right now without a contract, just on a case-by-case basis, which has been an extreme help to us, and everybody has been very pleased with their interactions. So I invited him to come tonight to introduce himself, and then we will be presenting him as our recommendation for a contract for building inspection services at our next meeting.
Thank you, Tyler. My name's Bill Rupert. I've been a lifelong in the construction industry. I'm a mechanical contracting company for many years. Became a home inspector about 7 years ago, and then began to move into the building inspection and code enforcement. I'm ICC certified, And I'm licensed by the state of Tennessee in commercial building inspections, residential building inspections, commercial plumbing, residential HVAC. And I'll be getting commercial HVAC. Love working with Tyler in the town, and no longer than we've met and worked together. I have stepped in to take care of some things that was left out. We had some citizens that were pretty unhappy trying to get some projects done. Matter of fact, met with 4 of them today, and they're just ecstatic that the city stepped up and helped them out. So they're moving forward. I do take care of 6 different, well, you'll be the 6th municipality. I currently take care of Tusculum, Bulls Gap, Malsheim, Seguinsville, and Rogersville. And do all theirs. So looking forward to working with you folks. It's a great area. Been here just a few, drove through a lot and really didn't think about it. But went on one out Independence driving day. I thought I was going to be in Virginia by the time I got, didn't realize how far you're really spread out. So beautiful area, great people everywhere that everyone I've had interaction with has just been really awesome. So just like to step up, do what I can to help the town out, and have a good working relationship with you, and see what we can do to move forward and keep things on the building front and code enforcement satisfied and taken care of. So if you want to have any questions or anything, I'd be more than glad to answer anything.
Questions? I will say from both Seguinsville and Rogersville, you came highly recommended, so we look forward to working with you as well.
Pride myself, customer service, number one, always has been since I was a young man started in the business. So that's what we want to do, is make sure that I can do what I can to serve the community to keep you all out of hot water.
And we appreciate that. And so that, I'm assuming then, Tyler, we'll see something to take action with that on our next, this month's meeting.
Yes, we'll bring you a contract.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any discussion on that? Take us then to item number 4, FY 26-27 budget.
So we're coming up to the second reading of the budget, and don't foresee any changes on my end. Of course, if you do have changes, now's the time to speak. If you something you need to see tweaked before the next reading. I gave you a copy of your budget books on your table. I'll have those available for the public next week to pick up, and it's also on the website already if people want to go to the website and check it out under the budget section. So we're excited about that, the way it turned out. We think it turned out really well, and it'd be a good thing to share with community members to help explain things. We'll also be doing a brochure in the front office like we had last year, and that'll come out closer to July. And I'll entertain any questions you have.
Questions? Statements, questions? This is just, I know an extensive amount of work goes into making this, and I've had time to look over this a little bit, and it's a really good representation. I feel like you can hand somebody and show them broken down what's going on, where we expect to go this next year, and I appreciate the time that you take putting all this together, that we can have that document available.
Thank you.
And will this be online too?
It already is.
Okay.
Underneath charges for service, the Parks and Recs charges, what is that?
We've had a couple of baseball teams that have asked to turn the lights on at the
Okay.
field, and that just covers that revenue that we receive from that. That's a minimal charge, just to cover somebody going up there and turning the lights on and paying for the electricity.
What is the charge with that? Just not ideal.
I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's somewhere between $25 to $75.
Okay.
It's minimal.
With the one thing in the budget, I know previously before I discussed about holding off on the flock cameras for the police department. Is that a large enough item expense that we would have to have a separate vote on that, or adopting the contract with them, or what would that, could that be staff approved, or does that need to be voted on separately?
The amount of the contract does not exceed staff's ability to enter into the contract. We just did not want to enter into a contract unless the item was approved in the budget. And that is currently part of the police department budget.
Would second reading take care of that?
That's essentially, yeah, that's
Yeah.
essentially what he's saying. Upon
Yeah.
approval of second reading, that passes by included with it.
Okay.
Does anybody have any further discussion on that? We'll move us then on to item number 5, budget amendment number 3 for the fire department grant.
So this is a second reading of that budget amendment, which gives the fire department the $47,000 grant from the state fire marshal's office for new extrication equipment. So that's just a formality. I was gonna let you know that's coming your way as a second reading.
You're in the fire chief center. For the meeting, would you do me a favor and will you total up how much grant money the fire department's brought in over the last 2 years?
565.
Look at you.
Good job.
That's a mental note.
I mean, that's over $500,000 that's been brought in from grant money to the fire department, and that's why I think you're continuing to see our fire department stand out amongst the ones in the county from the fact that you guys are putting in so much work to bring that much revenue into the town, or grants for the revenues. That's a huge accomplishment, and y'all should be proud of that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the support for the ones that do require a small match.
And hopefully we'll be announcing that new pumper truck or whatever we got application going
Hope
for.
so in a
And
few months. Yeah.
good deal.
You would have more revenue if you opened up a grant writing school.
Hey, we better be careful not talk about it too much, or somebody will be trying to poach him. But anyways, great job on that. Is there any other questions? Pretty much a formality for that. That'll take us into item number 6, Infomark LLC contract amendment.
Okay, so we have been negotiating with Infomark on their yearly percentage increase for their contract. We have some updated numbers for that, and we have representatives from Infomark here tonight to speak to any questions that you may have. We have a very detailed presentation for you as part of the packet next week, and we'll share that, but I'm going to hit the high points of it and let you ask any questions that you may have. So our yearly fee is going to go from, under this proposed amendment, would go from $946,529 to $1,074,091.58. That's a $10,630 increase per month, and I'll explain where that increase comes from. So I think that's 13.5% overall increase. The inflationary increase based on CPI should have been about 4.7. They discounted that to 3%, so it's a flat 3%. The other increase in cost comes from a couple of different areas. The first being adding a new person to the team for the wastewater plant. I would bring them to 6, is that correct? That will further alleviate burdens on their team right now, because from what I've heard, they're spread very thin as far as the operations. The initial proposal to us last year was 6. We were not sure that we were ready to take that on, so we decided to wait a year and see how things went. We're in a place where we need to have a 6th person, so that increase absorbs that extra person. Then we increased the caps for maintenance and chemicals and decreased the cap for sludge. So maintenance would be, your routine maintenance items, pumps, things like that. Right now we're paying for those out of pocket instead of using the cap because our cap was set at a lower amount. By increasing the cap, it puts it in our monthly payment, and we're not paying out $22,000 every other month for pumps, which was unexpected this year. But they're residential pumps, and they wear out quickly, and it's one of those things that we just have to deal with. Because of their operation and the dewatering process, they've been able to cut down on the amount of sludge that we have to have hauled off. So that's why there's a decrease there. Overall, it is a slight increase, but I think for the level of service we've received, it is fair considering they're adding another person to the team. And I will let Matt speak to the specifics and the need for that addition, and then he can answer any questions, or I can answer questions that you have about the contract.
Thank you, Tyler. As he said, we are looking to add a sixth employee. It would be 2-hour operations and maintenance staff. Currently, we've got 5. Chad's our project manager, and we have 3 maintenance technicians, 1 laboratory technician. The 3 maintenance technicians are responsible for all of the maintenance activities inside the plant and the residential lift stations. We have 2 major challenges that we have right now with the operations at the plant. We really need to have someone at the plant as long as we are staff. So Monday through Friday, we need to have somebody running the dewatering equipment, maintaining all of the equipment, and performing preventative maintenance at the plant. Outside of the plant is all the residential lift stations. When we initially did this, as Tyler said, we estimated to do this correctly, we would need 6 people to have the staff to be able to handle that. What we're doing right now is working. The plan is in compliance. We've made several improvements to it. But for us to be able to get to a level of preventative maintenance instead of reactive maintenance, we do need additional staffing to be able to stay in front of it. For the residentials, essentially what we're at is they run until there's an issue, a red light comes on, we respond to a call. We've yet to be able to complete an inventory. So there's still an unknown amount of residential lift stations throughout the system. We have replaced probably close to 70 some pumps since we've been here in just under a year. Every time we go and replace a pump, we're also revitalizing the electronics, the controls, to make sure that that resident hopefully doesn't have to have a repeat call for many years to come. What we're trying to accomplish with this is to be able to increase the level of services that we're providing to the town, to be able to do this, to push the town's wastewater and sewer system forward instead of just maintaining what we have. The adjustments towards the caps, again, are reflecting the real spending, so maintenance. We're going to increase that to where we can absorb those costs that the town is paying for out of pocket right now within our contract. The majority of those out-of-pocket costs are residential lift station pumps. That is the majority of your maintenance spending of the residential pumps, and it's a situation I think the town and everybody involved wish they weren't in, but we are in it, and it does require the funding to cover that. The chemical costs is just a slight adjustment. Running the dewatering equipment that we have now requires chemicals that weren't there when we first started. Slight adjustment for that. And as Tyler indicated, we are able to reduce the amount of cap that we have in for the sludge residue. Not only do we hope to produce less sludge as we optimize the plant, we came in and had to work through a decade of backlog. So that amount reduces, but also having Infomark on board, we were able to negotiate significant landfill tipping fee discount as well, and change where we're landfilling the solids. So both of that comes at a savings that will be reflected in this as well. So I know that was a lot. Any questions?
I just want to thank you guys for your quick responses on things. I know I've reached out a couple of times in regards to the pumps. You know, like somebody's pump was leaning real bad, whatever. But you guys, super. I mean, it's like 48 hours and they're fixed. So really appreciate that.
And I would encourage the board to proceed with this, even with this rate adjustment, because from the conversations I've had with TDAC, we're in a much better place than we were. This board's been in a time with the sewer department. So we're still working towards that. We're making some progress as far as with them, and I would encourage to continue in that direction.
We really appreciate that, and that thanks needs to go to Chad and his technicians who aren't here. They have a wonderful work ethic. They also have a pride. 2 of them are Mount Carmel residents, but the pride they have in what they do and the level of work that they're bringing to the town is really unmatched. And it's good to hear that the town and the residents are seeing that, because there's a ton of effort that goes into it, and the guys really work hard to make sure that we're doing our job. So thank you.
You're definitely doing it.
It's not fun, but that's what we're here for.
Right.
And I'll just say from a financial perspective, we went ahead and put the projected numbers. They may not be exact, but this increased number is included in the budget that you all have looked at. So
All right.
this is not an additional increase. We were expecting something.
So it was in the
along-
first reading?
It was.
Yeah, it was, we knew we were gonna finish it out, just didn't have the exact finalized numbers.
Just another quick comment. I will say with the negotiation process, one, you got some excellent negotiators with Jim and Tyler. But we were able to work together to make sure that, we are able to, Infomark's able to provide this at an extremely discounted rate. Jim and I went back and forth on the numbers, and what we're able to provide this extra employee in with the negotiated rates and the discounts we're able to pack in because of our partnership, is lower than what it would cost the town to add any staff really across the board. We're able to consume a lot of the costs with our regional presence here in East Tennessee, and then being able to work down that the inflationary rate is able to basically provide this at the hourly cost. And as you all know, there's a lot more that goes into employment than just the salary, benefits, safety, training, all of that. We'll be able to pack into this as well, and you should see a better product out in the field. But it's really going to drive the needle behind the scenes on getting this progress pushed forward. So we appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. Appreciate the continued partnership there. And so we'll be voting to, that'll be also see on this month's agenda. Any other questions on that? That'll take us then to item number 7, transition to City of Mount Carmel.
So I have been approached a few times over the past year, 6 months to a year, about what the process would look like to officially change the name from town to city. We get a lot of confusion. There's a lot of things that come from the state that are addressed to the city. Our building actually says the word city. At the end of the day, it's not really a big deal one way or the other, but we would like to be consistent and be consistent within the community as well and the region. So we, as part of the charter, there is a process to go through if you would like to do that. It's through a resolution. That resolution would be published in a newspaper, and then within 60 days, if 10% of the registered voters wish to change it, they can file for a referendum to actually vote on the change. Otherwise, it would carry. As far as the branding and signage throughout the town, I know that's probably a question on your mind. As far as I'm aware, all of the new items that we purchased and put money into, that they don't say town or city, they just refer to Mount Carmel. The only thing that we do actually have is city on this building. So that's up for consideration. If you want to move it forward, I just need to get a feel. I know that there are a couple of people that may be interested in it. It's a pretty simple process. There may be some strong feelings one way or the other. And if we don't want to approach it now and want to wait, that's fine. But it's before you as an option, and I'll entertain any questions that you have.
So the only thing that it says is City Hall, right? On the building, Mount Carmel City Hall.
Yes.
I mean, we've been the town of Mount Carmel since we became incorporated in 1964 or something like that. Not change something that,
Well, I think most people call it City Hall anyway. I mean, it's
that's just terminology at the end of the day.
true.
What's the difference? Like, is there a difference between a town and a city?
Cities is a bigger population there.
I mean, that's,
I suppose there probably is some place, but from our perspective here, there is no difference. It's like you said, it's what
They're fairly,
the majority of the population of the board wants to call it. It's a town or a city. There's a procedure to do it. It takes a 2/3 vote of the board. And then publish in the paper that you're going to change it to. And there's a 60-day period from the date you vote to do it. If somebody, or if a group decides they don't want to do the change, they can file a petition asking that they approval by the board not be accepted, but that it go to a public referendum. And then on the next election of the state officials, there'd be a referendum question either for or against changing the name. And that would be done only if there was during this 60-day window, a petition presented to the board, was signed by 10% of the electors, saying they would like to not change, like basically, and then you would have that vote by the town citizens to decide yes or no.
Would it be on this upcoming election or a presidential election?
The next election, which would be
This
November 26th.
Why would it
Or
just
August.
be, why would it just be put on the ballot for the November election anyway and let the citizens decide it anyway?
It doesn't say you have to, but I'm sure that, yeah, my interpretation, you can do that if that's what you wish, sure. It can be done that way. It can be done the way Tyler's explaining the way that's set up, but there's nothing that would stop you from doing as a referendum.
I know a couple of years ago, you kinda got onto us for not using town map Carmel. Ought to be, all of us be using.
Well,
city.
there is some advantage to consistency, as Tyler says.
Well, I know you kinda first one really got onto us about it.
It was just, I think you pointed out about the consistency of it. I don't, that's one of those, I don't know if there's a really pro-con for it one way or the other. I would probably want to look into that a little bit further myself before I would say, let's put it on next month's agenda.
I don't think people really pays attention to what they say.
It's tomato at that
Yeah.
point, you know.
I mean, I Googled city versus town, and basically several sites said city's bigger than a town, but none of them gave a number to go by. So, you know, of a number of people, the population. So, it's, yeah.
I'm say I wouldn't rule it out completely, but let's kick that to next month's workshop to review further. Anybody have any other questions on that one? I'll take us to item number 8, paving bids.
Okay, so we went ahead and put out bids for paving for the upcoming fiscal year in anticipation to get it done ahead of time so that once the budget rolls over, we can get to work. One of them was for the parking lot at the park, to resurface it once all the construction is finished with the bathroom and the pavilion, and to have the lower parking lot at the pavilion sealed and striped. We had 4 bids come in. The low bid was $70,060. We had budgeted $125,000. So we're gonna have a cost savings there. And it's a company we've worked with in the past.
And have we already signed out like Jason's paving bids that we're doing this year?
That's next.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
next. So that would be taking care of that area, and I'm gonna have them start as soon as the bathroom's finished and they get the construction crew out. I don't wanna mess anything up until,
I know last year, we was hoping that we could do it in front of Jason, right in front of the fence, that little gravel area there, trying to just clean that up. Or we still might do that, or,
I'm not sure if he included that in his bid. I know there's a section of Hammond Avenue that's gonna be paved,
okay,
but, I don't know if he included that
okay.
or not.
It's just like a wish list, I guess.
So the next one would be the street paving projects, which, we had 3 bids come in on it, and there's a list of the roads which you'll see at the work or the meeting as part of the agenda packet. We had budgeted, I think, $450,000, and the low bid came in at $424,000. So we're in a better spot than we were last year, because last year we were looking at cutting roads and things. So we'll bring you those recommendations. We're familiar with the low bidder. We've worked with them last year, so we're comfortable to recommend the low bid. The low bid's not always the best, but if you know the contractor, you know they do good work.
Will the high fuel prices, is that making a difference right now?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure that's been factored in as well as asphalt prices.
As far as, I missed the number, what was the parking lot, how under did that come in from what we budgeted?
Over $50,000 under budget.
So between the two, we're talking about $76,000 on
Yeah.
the budget.
Roughly.
Is that something that we could then go back and continue to add that to that pave list, or?
We could send out further bids for
Because
that
I would
project.
like anything that we can do to continue stretching the paving money out, I would like to see us try to do.
We've got the money approved. If the budget passes, we can issue separate proposals for bids for other streets if you wish to, or other areas of the town, anything else that you will foresee. Eventually, this parking lot's gonna need it. I'm not saying it's priority, but there are several places that could use, but the streets is the first priority. Ensure that we're taken care of. So if you would like to do that, I can get that ball rolling and bring that forward and work with Jason on that.
I want to try to, every bit that we've kind of budgeted for paving, I'd like to see us try to maximize that as much as possible
Okay.
for the actual, for the roads and stuff.
The roads that you guys have listed, is that where you guys created, when we had talked about we list all the roads and then like import, first to last in regards to how they're being paved? Is that how the plan is spread out this year?
We have not developed a paving plan like that you all asked for in strategic planning.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't had the time to go through and do that. This is Jason's recommendation for this current year as to what are the most crucial areas.
Okay.
And there's quite a bit on here, so.
Any other questions on paving? Take us to item number 9, the municipal judge reappointment process.
Okay, our municipal judge, Jim Williams, was appointed in 2024. His 2-year term is coming up in July. He wishes to continue if the board's agreeable. We've had no issues. Everything's run smoothly. Our recommendation would be to continue that. This is just a formality to reappoint him as municipal judge.
Would it be for another 2 years?
Yes. Because that's set forth as term of office.
Discussion on that. So we'll see that on this next month's meeting as an action item. I'll move to item number 10, TML conference in Kingsport, Tennessee, July 10th through 12th.
Yeah, this is more of an announcement. And I put it on the end of the original agenda, but we've had several things added. So the TML conference, Tennessee Municipal League, is going to be in Kingsport at Meadowview, July 10th through the 12th. Starts Friday evening with a reception and goes through Sunday. That's a great opportunity. I've already invited you all to attend. If you wish to attend, I'll get your registrations taken care of. I've also invited our department directors to attend. It's a good event to network and get to know people, and it's in our backyard. We don't have to travel. It's a good time to go. Also, we've been nominated for Excellence in Government Award and Mayor of the Year Award.
Oh,
So,
look at that.
Congratulations to us. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to turn out, but we're hopeful.
I'm sure.
I don't think that one was ever being recognized for me.
Yeah, except for
excellent in government.
The other way around.
Oh, excellent in governance. Is that what you said?
Yes. So I think that it's usually an awards breakfast on the last day, but they'll release a full schedule. They let you know ahead of time if you win, so that you have your whole crew there. So
Well, we gotta thank you, Jim, for that. Your leadership.
it's a team effort, not just me and Jim. It's you all. It's all of our employees. But we appreciate your guidance and leadership too.
Thank you. That's great.
Congratulations to you.
Yes, we'll definitely encourage everybody to go to that, and hopefully we'll have some good news there. Take us into item number 11 then, Hawkins County ECD update.
So Mitch and I went down to Rogersville earlier this week and met with the stakeholders in the ECD discussion. There was a lot of back and forth, frank discussions about budgeting. Mayor Gibson was there, Alderman Denstock was there. I know some people have listened to the recording. I'll sum it up by saying that the communications district was able to narrow their deficit to $773,150. The county had already committed basically to $608,000 in one of their budget drafts, which would leave the county with an additional $165,150. Mayor DeWitt and others posed it to the budget committee. Can they absorb that extra cost this year? They did not give a final answer, but there was indication that they were going to entertain that idea, so that the issue may be solved for this year, but it's only going to kick the can down the road to next year. And we're going to have to address this again. But Commissioner Barker was very adamant about us having representation on the board. If we go down this road, Mount Carmel's going to have to be represented on the board to make decisions and have input in their financial status, because there's been years of lack of representation. And so while I'm hopeful that this year we're going to have this issue solved, it's not set in stone yet. The county's not approved their budget, so anything could happen. And then next year we may be in the same boat. So we've got to really think hard about how we're going to respond next year. We've got some ideas of how we think we can do that, but for now, that's where things stand.
Now,
Go ahead.
in the recordings, from what I heard, they had talked about, Director Campbell had talked about doing 3-year contracts.
Yes.
So that would be something that, in my opinion, speaking for myself, not speaking for Mount Carmel, but that's the only way that the only thing that I would entertain is a 3-year contract. Because we can't do it this year and then next year get slapped in the face again. So
Churchill and Sir Brunsville also echoed the same. Even the county said we have to have an agreement that states it's only going to go up. So
will it be an interlocal agreement or will it be a countywide agreement?
That was brought up. The idea, I'm pushing that we continue with the county interlocal agreement so that we're covered under that we don't have an individualized interlocal agreement.
Okay.
That we let that interlocal agreement, because my thought behind it is if we have our own individual interlocal agreement, the ability that they would have for charging for services would be greater. If the county has the interlocal agreement and we're blanket under that where we all pay county taxes, then that would then give us the county's more, and I would defer that to the county to negotiate and be the one that does all of that versus more us paying it as a separate charge. So if you didn't get the recording from that, I can certainly send that out to you. I felt like there was a lot of headway was made with the conversation, moving that forward. It's something that biggest thing that I hope to communicate from on our behalf was that it's not the services that are provided from the 911. It's just basically how we're generating the funding to pay for it. We want that to be equitable across the entire county from every parcel. The only body that can do that is the county commission. They can tax every parcel in the county at the same rate versus us. I also don't feel like it was fair to say that you could see a penny increase in your county property taxes and then turn and say that they weren't going to dispatch calls in the city of Mount Carmel. You're paying an increase in county rates for that. We all should pay the same equal rate to ensure to eat those costs the same. I would encourage that if we have to go that route, that we push for the multi-year agreements with the fixed rate guardrails in place so that we can budget for it, as well as the representation. I think is going to be a no problem. Go ahead.
Is there any way, if we did the like a 3-year contract or whatever, that we put a cap on the additional one on how much we can?
So the contract would have a figured rate, or the agreement would have a rate put into it, like factor this year's plus 3%, and then at the end of those 3 years, we would renegotiate a baseline and go from there.
Gotcha.
But that way, it would at least give the county or city or whoever the entities might look like a way to then be able to have it's kind of similar to our trash contract with Eastwork, where we know next year we're going to go up by X amount of rate, same way of a multi-year agreement. But I still have continued to hope that we push that there's no way that you can sum up a call for service versus a bill from the county versus a bill from your city means that you're paying for that service twice.
And your cell phone.
And your cell phone bill. We're going to keep at it. I really appreciate this board's willingness to take this on kind of as a unified voice, and we'll keep working towards that goal. Anybody have questions on ECD?
Well, if we do that agreement, we'll still be getting taxed twice, then, right?
Not if we do the county.
No.
If the county absorbs the cost.
If the county is over the cost of it, if they don't, then they want us to do a 3-year agreement. I don't know what the price would be, but that still be wouldn't be fair to our residents being taxed twice.
I'd look and see what's happening across the state.
So, but I mean, that's the ultimate end argument is that there's no partnership between the 3 of the municipalities and the county, where 3 municipality residents aren't getting paid or taxed twice for the same service. That's the base argument. But if there comes the time that we have to go that route, we want a lot of safeguards in place to have control over that number, to see where that number is going, to prevent this from ballooning out of control. But for today, for this budget, I would say that there's a good possibility that we're going to be able to not have to start paying it this year.
Okay.
Any other questions? Take us into item number 12, partnership with Goodwill Industry.
So as part of our recycling center, which is opening next Wednesday, 10 a.m., hope you can be there. I'll send out more information to you. Appreciate the Times News for covering that for us already. And I think the Review also published that, but it'll be May 20th, 10 a.m. We partner with Sullivan County. We also were approached by Goodwill for one of their donation centers. So that contract with them will be coming. One thing they did agree to is to not take the same materials that we're already accepting with Sullivan County, since they were there first. They've been very agreeable with it, but it provides another benefit for our citizens to be able to, take their items that they may need to get rid of and actually create jobs. We'll be creating a job here in Hawkins County, at least one job, by adding this donation center, somebody on site. So that's a plus that you could look at there.
What size is the container that you get
I
with?
believe it's a 28-foot trailer.
They've got the one set up in Churchill. Is that kind of the same ones that
It'll
were?
be similar. It's a newly wrapped trailer, clean, and it's video surveillance and kept up by an attendant. Of course, if anything goes awry, we know who to contact and make sure that it's addressed.
Did
There
you
is
state where it was going to be located at?
specifically it'll be inside the recycling
Okay,
center.
that's all right.
But there is going to be a privacy screen on that and fence on the recycling center. So, we're going to look at putting in a wall of trees behind as a privacy for the neighbors to kind of cut down on some people aren't happy with what it might look
That's
like.
understandable.
But anyway, I think we're moving in the right direction, giving our residents some more options, and I think they will benefit from having that as an option.
It's gonna be like enough room for everything. Sure, you probably can measure everything out.
I've already drawn it out. Of course, we have to get it in there and make sure it's going to fit, but that'll be happening in a few days.
That looks nice so far. Looks really nice.
Any other discussion on that? So that'll take us on into item number 13, the request for speed bumps. So I've had multiple people in different places of the town reaching out, asking about what the neighbors would need to do about putting in speed bumps or ways of slowing traffic. One address was on Cedar, Jefferson, and then on Hammond Avenue itself. We've talked about speed bumps in the past. I told them it's not something that was within my decision to control, that I would bring it to the board to discuss. So that's ultimately what I'm doing. It may be something we need to have the police chief in on the conversation more and bring this back up at another time. But I understand the safety, family aspect of wanting your kids to be able to be outside safely. Still don't know about how that comes into the playing in the street aspect, because even state law says that we're supposed to provide unencumbered I read the definition and it was very technical, but the streets were basically supposed to be able to be driven on and not blocked. So it bringing this body to consider if something that you all wanted to look into, told the different residents I would. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
I think we still run into the issue whenever it comes to snow plowing.
Yeah, that's what I was going back.
And the fire
Emergency
trucks. Yeah, getting over those things. I mean, it's not. And we got a brand new we got a new truck.
We have new snow equipment too.
You're right.
I'm not against having the conversation with David and Jason to see if it's an option in some of the places, but if it's going to cause operational concerns, then we may have some issue there. But we can definitely have a discussion about.
If I'll get you all the addresses or the people that have reached out, I guess that's something we could look on a case by case basis.
Yes, and we wouldn't really need official board action for that unless the cost was so great that we had to, get a bid or something on it. But we would take your suggestions, so if you've got some addresses, we'll look at it and address it from there.
The one concern that I feel like I would have with that too is that you might have 2 neighbors that want the speed bump and 3 neighbors that don't.
Right.
Well, one thing we had before we went through these speed bumps, if you put them up there on Hamlin's Road, the plows is gonna take them out.
No, we're not. I wouldn't ever think
Those
we'd
that
want.
come flying up like.
Yeah, no, I
There's a
wouldn't think
hazard.
we'd put speed bumps on Hammond. The other 2 addresses are more residential, like neighborhoods.
That was ultimately my only speaking point on that is, I could see it more in residential areas, but on the main thoroughfare.
There's no way of putting a speed bump on Hammond. No, no.
And I will
So
say,
Hamlin's Avenue's off the question, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't, because where they're looking at it for is more on the
But they're out building.
past Darby, past. Well, I cannot think. Hammond Estates. So
is
it's
there any liability? Alderman Patrick was asking.
I'm assuming TDOT has some standards. You want to make sure you just go out and put a hump of asphalt down. There are, I noticed in the residential neighborhoods of Kingsport, you have speed tables. They're a crosswalk type of, where the crosswalks are, they've got a table you go up, you go across and then down. So I'm sure there are standards out there, I don't know, but whether TDOT has them or not, you want to make sure whatever you put in complies with current safety regulations.
And one question I guess would be more to have Jason check into, is there anything that's, I feel like I saw ones in Kingsport before that they're not concrete, they're like bolted in, they're removable, or that if you put them in, take them out during the winter time, so we know we're not damaging equipment, at least explore the cost difference of a permanent versus a temporary speed bump, because even some of it I really think is behavior pattern type changes of some of the areas that they're talking about. Well, it might just be 1 or 2 instances of a driver that's the problem, and if that could be corrected more with police presence, police action, then that would be a much cheaper alternative than going and start installing speed bumps.
Well, that, and plus with the ones that you bolt down, I would want to make sure, how many are we getting, and does Jason have storage for them when they're not
That's good. That's a really good point.
down, because he's very limited on space with what he does have. So I don't want to take any more of his space away from
That's
him.
another good factor to
I
consider.
know back in the early 2000s, we had them boats down, and Jason put them down, and later on that day, he was already taking them back up and complaining.
That's what I mean. The two people want them, 3 people don't. Like it's something that I would think we need to be very thoughtful about, and the starting point, I guess, would even be getting addresses for us to examine.
And another thing, I've heard, I don't know the operational side, but I've heard there are some people that believe that they don't even really cut down on, speeding. People just
Like to
plow
jump
on anyway. So it may not be as effective as you want it to be. I don't know whether that happens or not, but that's something to consider. But I think for us, get some addresses and then go from there and talk with our.
Yeah, I agree. And at least we have it on the radar. We have a path forward for those people that will start the discussion. And I appreciate everybody considering that. Any other questions on that? Takes into 14, discussion for city manager contract.
This is something that I wanted to put on the board, or not on the board, on the agenda. When Mr. Staples came in, when we first interviewed him for the position, he, talked about being a problem solver. He wanted, that's what he did. He came in and he fixed problems. He wanted the challenge. And Mr. Staples has done a fantastic job in the almost 2 years that he's been here. But as a board, we know that we have received emails in regards to where Mr. Staples is seeking outside of employment. So I know that over the last 2 years, one of the things that Mr. Staples and Tyler has been working on is a plan of succession for the time whenever Mr. Staples is no longer here. Not that this is something that I want to put on the agenda as an action item right now. It's just something I want us to be cognitive of. But I don't want us to end up being a place or a place where we are a placeholder until somebody finds something better that comes along. We know that Mr. Staples is not going to be here forever. Obviously his performance review speaks very highly of the work that he's done for the community. And I definitely don't want to take that away from him. But I do feel like that plan of succession that has been built on for the last 2 years at some point in time needs to take place. Whether that's whenever Mr. Stables finds his next employment, or whether we look at terminating the contract because he is a contracted employee with the town of Mount Carmel. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
He is a contract employee.
Okay. So just something for you guys to teeter on. That's all I gotta say about that.
Discussion on that. Nothing else, just a reminder, Saturday we'll have the Nerf War at the park. I encourage everybody to come out to that. It's going to be from 1 to 3. And
The shivers have to be there with
Shivers.
ices.
Yep. And anybody, any other discussion, anything else? We'll go ahead and call this workshop closed.